I'm going to get started on the University of California admissions presentation for this cycle. As I've mentioned, I'm going to record this and I'll put it on our little YouTube channel and send out the link to that on over the next couple of days. So if there's tons of information in here. This is a real kind of, as I was putting it together, realizing a detail heavy presentation. So you're going to have to go back and check things out if you really want to get to some of the nuances here. I really only decided to do this presentation last week, obviously. And I usually don't do these. This is something where with the UC stuff, we'll go over it in the meetings and I'll kind of break it down a little bit before then. Especially with the majors, because the majors are the things that they're like the one remaining thing that most people need to get done. Shirley's done all of the work, most of the work with the transcript stuff. So for most students, the grades are in there. With the essays, where everybody's working on the essays or they're done with them, and we post them on the application. So that's not something you have to deal with. With the activities for UC, that's something that we've been working on forever, and we're going to have those edited over the next couple of weeks. So that's not something that you're going to really have to deal with. And the personal information is stuff that you're taking care of on your own. So that only leaves the majors. And as I said, in the past, I've done this in such a way that I haven't done a full presentation on it. And even with this, I was just going to do a little bit of a video on it. But after going through some of the material and some of the questions, I realized how kind of scared everybody was. And that makes sense with UC, because for UC, the major is a core part of the application. It's integrated with everything else. It's integrated with the activities. It's integrated with the PIQs. It's not like Stanford, where it's kind of like, what do you want to study when you declare your major next year? The major doesn't matter as much. With UC, statistically, and even beyond that, it means a lot. So it stands to reason that we would wind up doing a presentation on this. So I'm glad that most people are showing up. The agenda today is we're going to go over UC applications and majors by campus. Feel free to chime in and ask questions in any of these times, as long as it's something that you think other people might have, not something like, my son got a C- in second semester American Sign Language in ninth grade. Is that going to validate his language other than English requirement? I mean, maybe that's something that you drop me a line on or we talk about in a meeting. But otherwise, please feel free to dump questions as much as you can. So we're going to go over the applications, majors by campus, just a couple of specific majors that people tend to have an interest in that are impacted and need and are conversation worthy: nursing and business. UC quick facts, just a handful of things that were gone over during the UC Counselor Conference this past week that were relevant, and something totally unrelated, especially for computer science majors. So that's the teaser. Stick around until the end. So let's without any further dudes, let's get moving. Okay, so this is the page that everybody confronts and they freak out. What do I put in as my major? This is the UC application. You're going to get your you've got your own personal UC application, as we all do, where you can check out where the majors are. It's right up here. This is mine. But yeah, you're all going to have an application where you can check out, go into the majors, choose majors, and so on and so forth. And that's the page that most people, around this time, as I said, kind of freak out about, because it is a little bit daunting. And you got the 9 schools in front of you. You got to figure out, what am I going to apply to each one? And I'm never getting into computer science. What should I put in as something else? So let's go school by school. And the way that I've organized this for the schools is I'm doing it by selectivity. I'm sorry, in other cases, it's done by like alphabet. So, Davis is like number 2, but here I'm doing in the order of, because it does correlate to the selectivity: Berkeley, LA, San Diego, Davis, Irvine, Santa Barbara, Santa Cruz, Riverside, Merced. So that's kind of a more logical way of doing it than the alphabet way. So let's start off with UC Berkeley. Cal is a very hard school. And it didn't used to be the case that most majors at Cal would admit by major. And that's the big thing that you're going to find in this presentation that's significant. Admitting by major versus admitting by school or admitting by college. When selectivity and competition is at the college level, at the school level, it makes otherwise individually competitive majors not so rough. Like, for instance, at UC Santa Barbara, under letters and sciences, there's a couple of data science majors. Those would ordinarily be very popular, but at UC Santa Barbara, in letters and sciences, evaluation is made at the college level, not the specific level. So, long story short, if you're applying to a competitive major and evaluation is made at the major level, that's going to make things particularly difficult. Cal didn't used to admit anybody by major under the College of Letters and Sciences. The way that they've admitted students generally has been admit by major, College of Chem, College of Engineering, Haas, Natural Resources as well, I believe, and Letters and Sciences, high demand majors. That was something that they piloted last year in order for students to get direct admission to 8 majors, which I'll go over next in the next slide. So College of Chem, College of Engineering, Haas School of Business, Letters and Sciences, high demand majors. The high demand majors are, I should have put this in a better order, under Letters and Sciences, art practice, computer science, data science, economics, global studies, media studies, operations research, political economy, psych, public health, and social welfare. This is what's going to pop up if you click one of those on the Cal section for the major. This is a high demand major at Berkeley Letters and Sciences. If you're interested in this major, it's very important to select this major on your application. At the same time, you're not going to get considered for an alternate major. So the one thing that's not said here is it's a high demand major. You should select it, but if you don't get in, you're not getting into Berkeley in general. You're being looked at for that major specifically. And if you apply to like public health, but you're not admitted to public health, you're not admitted to Berkeley. On the flip side, if you apply to something like math, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't matter. Because for something like math, not a high demand major, you'd be directly admitted to Letters and Sciences undeclared. So the big thing to be concerned with under Letters and Sciences is art practice, CS, data science, econ, and the rest of these guys. And for something like this, the question I generally ask is, do you want to go to that major or do you want to go to Berkeley? If the answer is, I got to go to that major, then apply to the major. If the answer is, I'd rather get into Cal and figure things out at that point, then you apply to something that's not a high demand major. Moving back a little bit, for students that have an interest in, okay, Q&A already. Well, let me get through Berkeley first, and I'll answer that. Haas, business, a popular major for us after a kind of computer science and engineering. What is the Haas School of Business doing? It's turning into a 4-year program starting this coming fall. It doesn't look like they're abandoning the internal transfer program, at least for right now, so that's going to hang around. But now you can apply directly into what's called the Speaker Undergraduate Business Program, which is the undergrad business program, the Bachelor of Business Administration at Haas. There are other majors that you can apply to at Haas, something called GMP, the Global Management Program, which is a combined major between Haas and LNS. There's another major, MET, the Management Engineering. No, I forgot exactly the initialism. Sorry, Management Entrepreneurship, Management Engineering. But that one is a combination between Haas and engineering. In the case that you apply directly into Haas, the Speaker Undergrad Business Program, if not selected to the program, as you see in this last sentence, you'll not be considered for Berkeley. So this is like a standard high demand major. Apply to that. You want to go to business or you want to go to Cal? Pick one. For something like MET, that combined program between Haas and engineering, you can see what's there. MET has an alternate major built into the review process. If you apply to MET, the combination between engineering and Haas, and you're not admitted to that combined program, you'll be evaluated for the engineering related major that's part of that combined program. So in this case, I selected EECS. But you can see just about anything. You go into Haas, that's right. You got to go into engineering in here, and then you're looking like engineering undergrad in business, engineering undeclared in business, aerospace engineering in business, civilly in business. So you're evaluated for the combined program first, and then after that, if not admitted, you'll be accepted. You'll be considered for the individual major program. Yeah. You get the idea. So you'll be considered for a backup in the case of the combined programs. In the case of direct admit only business, it's either business or nothing. Um, as I mentioned, high demand majors through LNS, you got those guys in there. Alternate majors not considered for Cal, and that's a big takeaway. Don't depend on the alternate major. Don't depend on the secondary major. In so many cases these days, it's not even considered. Just for the record, last year, direct admission to computer science, 2.3% acceptance rate. So, you know, for those of you that are good at maths, that's a 97.7% rejection rate. Okay, so moving on to UCLA, UCLA, UCLA. What do we got? Ooh, good question. Yeah, we're gonna get to that. No CS under LNS this year. CS is under the College of Data Science and Computing. That's only an administrative issue, but it is something that's a very excellent note. Good observation. Way to pay attention. So yeah, I'll get to that. That's actually in like one of the last slides, the adjustment in that. I'll get to that. Good question. But it doesn't matter in the admissions end. It's going to matter on the administrative end, internally, but not at least this year on getting students in. But good question. Moving along to the second of the Cal campuses, UCLA. UCLA, a little bit made more straightforward than Cal. Under letters and sciences, major is not considered. Under everywhere else, more or less, major is considered. The most significant one is engineering. I've gone through these stats a lot with y'all, or with most of y'all. Where here we've got the engineering stats that UCLA so kindly disaggregates in their own information. You can see anything with computer in front of it has low single-digit admit rates. Anything where people are studying chemistry or like Gorilla Glass or polymers or thin films, nobody wants to do it. No fun. So chemi and materials among the easier ones. I mean, among the less hard ones to get into. You know, it doesn't mean that like, you know, you can just kind of stumble into material science with a 3.1 and like nothing going on. It's still like just brutally hard and low single digit admit rates for engineering as a whole. But if you've got the appropriate profile and it's kind of a choice between, oh my God, I've done, you know, I did Garcia this past year. I've done Chem H, AP Chem, you know, Chem Olympiad study. I'm interested in doing, you know, computer science or chemical engineering. Go to chemical engineering, go to materials. Even if you wind up at most places, and this is an aside, don't take this one to the bank. If you get into the engineering school, it's a lot easier to move into the other engineering disciplines. So impossible almost to transfer from outside engineering into engineering at UCLA. But if you're admitted to like materials, it's not nearly as hard to move into computer science. It's still going to be competitive, but you get priority as far as the required classes that would be needed to transfer and move into that major. So just a little bit of a kind of a side door. Engineering, as you see, admits by major. Letters and science does not admit by major. None of the other ones are really relevant to many students, aside from nursing, which is just brutally hard. You know, as you'll see, nursing stats are skewed by the fact that students have to submit a supplemental app. But you know, it's still nursing for UC is just an absolute nightmare. So Berkeley, high demand major, hard. Haas, hard. Engineering, hard. Letters and sciences, non-high demand major is basically the safety net for Cal. UCLA, letters and sciences, everybody's admitted kind of equal. It doesn't matter. You're admitted directly to major or to a pre-major. UCLA, by the way, has introduced a stats and data science major in addition to their weirdly named pre-data theory major. So, you know, that's something to consider for students that have an interest in data science. But LNS at UCLA, no competition or no individual major competition at the college level. San Diego is weird in multiple ways. To get into San Diego as a whole, the major doesn't matter, but in order to get into the major that you want to, you better indicate it as a freshman, because transferring into what are called impacted majors at San Diego, capped majors, is super duper hard. So San Diego doesn't consider for majors for UCSD as a whole. But all the popular majors are hard to get into. So, you know, admissions to the campus isn't made by major, but the major does play a massive role in getting directly admitted and ultimately dictating what you're going to study, because students are not encouraged to float around at San Diego. At Santa Barbara, you float a little bit. At San Diego, no, you're going usually directly into what you want to study and finishing off with that. So San Diego does not consider admission to UCSD as a whole, as far for the major. But as far as getting in, they would like students to put in a less competitive major as the alternate major in the event that the first choice major is capped. This is one of the few cases where the alternate major does matter. They say it does allow them to make a more informed decision on the student and potentially place them into a major that they want rather than admitting them as undeclared. So capped major, it's hard to switch into. What's a capped major? Like everything that you'd want to do. Jacob School of Engineering, all majors are selective. Data science, this is a selective major. General bio, this is a selective major. Human bio, this is a selective major. Like everything that you'd want to do is a selective major until you get to like undeclared physical sciences. That's not, I mean, so that's what you got to put in as the alternate. So you gun for the top major as the hard one, and then you put in the alternate major and uncapped one as the backup in order to allow them to actually admit you to the school and potentially admit you to a division that you might like. But as you see with San Diego, I mean, and I could just go on and on, and which I do, as you all know, I go on and on and on. But like everything, I mean, everything for CS, everything from data science. I mean, the one thing that's, let me just see this, pardon me. The one thing that wasn't impacted last year that I was very surprised about was the oh gosh darn it, was the business major. They sunsetted, as they called it, their management, their supply chain major, and they've made like business econ and econ and math. So that one is impacted. Okay, that one's impacted too. All right, so never mind. Political science data analytics. You want to work for somebody doing political polling, not impacted. I'm sure it pays great. Okay, so moving right along. Sorry to be, so glib about this, but it really is. It's just bananas how nuts it gets. And yes, I know I can go directly to the slide, but I don't know how to do that right now. So San Diego, getting into the school as a whole, no matter what you indicate on the application, you'll be evaluated to the school as a whole. But if you put a primary major as capped, you want to put it in an uncapped secondary major just to make sure that the school you have the best opportunity to go to the school. Now, for something that's completely different and something that is information dense and something that I'm going to try and explain but not spend tons of time on because we will go over it when we meet over the UC application. But in the meantime, this is what to look for. San Diego, unlike most of the other UCs, unlike all the other UCs in terms of the application, has a college system where you're asked to rank preference for the colleges. There are 8 colleges on campus. They differ in terms of location on campus. They differ in terms of general education requirements. They have nothing to do with your chance of admission. You could put anything in there and it doesn't impact admission at all. But just to make your life easier in the event that you get into San Diego and you go, you need to pay attention to the ranking. So again, a lot of information here. I'm going to post this up on our little YouTube channel. Keep in mind that what are we at? Probably at 15 minutes in right now. This is when we get to the colleges section. So here's the deal. 8 colleges, you got to rank them. They differ, as I said, in terms of general education requirements. Try not to pay attention to most of the verbiage on here. Just pay attention to the last line. Grand total general education courses. For arts, humanities, and social science majors, you're getting the best deal from 7th College, 14 GE courses, Muir College, 14 GE courses, and 8th College, a new one that I don't know anything about, and I'm not recommending that anybody apply to it just yet. You're getting the worst deal out of Revelle that makes you take a mess of other GE courses, or Warren, which is really intended for the engineering students. So total math, total GE courses, you're getting the best shake from Muir, or 7th or 8th. You're getting the worst shake from Revelle that's making you do up to 19 plus 8 math or science courses. So you don't like math or science stuff, stay away from Revelle like it's long COVID. Science majors, I shouldn't really break it. I don't know why I'm breaking it up like that. Let's just go to engineering majors. So for social science majors, stay away from, that's why. For social science majors, stay away from Revelle. The only students that should be really attracted to Revelle are bio people or pre-med people, because a ton of the Revelle GE requirements overlap with pre-med requirements. I'm even a little bit, not sure about that though, because Revelle's awful. People hate it. People hate the workload. But you want to, you're a sciencey person. You want to clear out pre-med requirements along with GE requirements. Then Revelle is probably the place for you. For engineering, Warren is the one that you wind up putting number one. It gives you the least GE requirements that you have to complete. Physically speaking, the Warren dorms are closest to the engineering classrooms, so that guy's number one. I would stick Revelle last. I mean, I stick Revelle last for everyone, with the exception of a couple of real ambitious pre-med folks that can handle it. For everybody else, my preferences are always Sixth and Muir. Muir is super flexible. Sixth just had a facelift. There's new there's new facilities, there's new eating areas around there. Seventh is newer, but people seem to like it. Eighth, like I said, I don't know anything about. Marshall is cool. People don't hate it. I've never heard anybody complain about it. Its orientation is a lot of like social justice stuff, the minority experience in the US. And Roosevelt is they give a ton of they give a ton of weight to or there's a lot of emphasis and effort on language courses too. So long story short, Warren, engineering, you want to do it. Roosevelt might be a little bit dicey with the language classes. Muir, sixth, seventh, and eighth, probably the easiest way to go after those. Again, no impact on admissions, just impact on your general quality of life once you're at UC. All right, moving on to UC Davis. Gosh darn, why is there animation like this on these? I got to do a better job of editing this. Okay, so Davis. So Berkeley, admission by major for high demand, or in engineering, or at Haas. LA, admission by major only in engineering and nursing and stuff. San Diego, admission to major doesn't impact admission to the school as a whole, but every major that you want to go to is capped. So you're going to want to put in a capped major as a primary, more likely than not, and an uncapped major, as they call it, as an alternate major. Moving down to Davis. So Davis flipped the script on us this year, and it's not something that it seems like anybody was anticipating. The little attachment that I sent you on the invitation to this stuff, which was the 2023 UC resources, it's got computer science under engineering, or it's got computer science under letters and sciences. No more. Now computer science is only under engineering. That's relevant because Davis admits largely by division, largely by college, and then by division. Back last year, you'd be able to apply to LNS, apply to computer science, and really not have much of a problem because it wasn't considered an impacted or capped major in LNS. Now that they've moved it and consolidated it under engineering, the only way to declare it as engineering is the most competitive college on campus. Choice of major does affect admission for engineering. It throws everything off. So now you got computer science where it's just like everybody else. It's a capped major. And to make things worse, Davis doesn't largely consider the alternate major. This alternate major thing is, I think I stole it directly from Davis, but that's a lie. The rare, it's like super rare cases. They've for years up until last year, it was always assumed that they didn't consider the secondary major. But then they came out straight up last year and said, we're not considering the secondary major. It's not something that we're going to look at all. So Davis does not consider the secondary major. They are admitting largely by major. And the hardest major to get into is going to be computer science under engineering. Letters and sciences, not that rough. Ag, not that rough. Biological sciences, oddly, the least competitive major on campus. Engineering, though, still, obviously maintaining its standard as the hardest one to get into, and then computer science making it especially hard. And as I mentioned, no alternate major for Davis. With Irvine, Irvine's a real weird situation. Irvine didn't used to care about major, and then a couple of years ago, they had 60% of their applicants applying to only 10 majors, and since that time, they've really changed their tune. They've had a lot of weird stuff going on lately. There was an issue, if you remember, about 3 or 4 years ago, where they over enrolled and like didn't have enough space for them. So like last minute they had to not deny a bunch of kids, and it was a PR disaster. They finally kind of straightened those things out, but they're still all over the place as far as the major students being admitted and so forth. So no alternate major. Major plays a role in admission for evaluation for everybody. The likelihood of being admitted to the school without being admitted to the major is low. So you got to pick a first choice major where it's almost like Cal. Do I want to go to Irvine, or do I want to go to like computer science? Computer science, awful, as you can, shocker, who knew? Computer science, like 6% admit rate. So the same admit rate is like what, like Penn? Um, uh, um, Bio far higher. I didn't expect that, because you see bio is among, it's a top major. So but they have the facilities, and they've got the space to accommodate it. So I mean, Irvine has always been a big med place, so perhaps that explains that. When you see the breakdown of the numbers internally from Irvine's website, you get a real idea also of, I mean, just even at the college level, how tough it can be, or at the school level. You know, for info and CS, not necessarily the CS major itself, but for the whole school, less than 10%. For business, you're looking at less than 7%. For physical sciences, though, you're looking at 33, 34%. So there you go. Business, by the way, along with Berkeley and Riverside, those are the only UCs that have a Bachelor of Business Administration. So they're all incredibly hard. Other people have econ. We'll get to that in a second. But for business itself, UC always super duper hard, for the ones that have it. So yeah, the oddly students have biological sciences isn't a backbreaker, regardless of the fact that it's the most popular major. That notwithstanding, though, all these other guys are harder to get into. CS, mechie, nursing, business. So yeah, maybe not criminology, maybe not poli sci, but still among the more popular. Okay. Santa Barbara, we finally get a little bit of a break here. Admissions by major only done under the College of Engineering. Admissions by major not considered under the College of Letters and Sciences. As I say, their competition is at the college level. There are also some weird majors in there, like the College of Creative Studies. You can select an alternate major. You will want to select an alternate major in the event that you always want to have an alternate major up there, just in the off chance that they need to select you for something. But in this case, it's actually going to matter, especially if you're in engineering. Applying to engineering is the primary, or applying to creative studies is the primary. Then the alternate is there as a real safety net. With they do have not awful majors under letters and sciences. You know, when you go there, as I said, you got let me see this. Let me go there real quick. Irvine does tend to have a lot of real, even in the LNS, some kind of some quantity majors, so to speak. Like they got the divisions in here. Jeez, good God. So we've got, like, let me see. Not under social sciences. What should I go under? Sorry. Physical sciences, math. There is, I should have figured this out before that's right. I'm so sorry. That's why it's not showing up. I'm in Santa Barbara right now. Well, that makes sense. So LNS, pardon me for being an idiot. LNS, you've got some quantity things that are good backups to the CS stuff. You've got you got stats and data science, both a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Science. You have applied math. You've got financial and actuarial mathematics, I believe, actuarial science. So, I mean, the general rule of thumb is the STEM stuff is hard and impacted, and oftentimes in engineering, in the case of Santa Barbara, you get a little bit of a break there. It's not as it's not quite as tough. Here, let's see this. Can I do this? Current slide. Great. Okay, so Santa Barbara, engineering, very hard. Backup plan, letters and sciences, the safety net. By the way, transferring into engineering is not permitted. Just can't do it. From one of the AOs at the UC Counselor Conference, we do not post this, but I can say CS was the most applied to major and a small program at UCSB. Admit rates are in the teens for engineering in general. For CS, it's going to be, boy, I saw some crazy stat last year where it was like, I didn't get on the, I didn't pick it up on the recording for the last year's Counselor Conference, but somebody said it to me that watched it live, where it was like it was just like a 1% type thing. It was just like so low at Santa Barbara. I guess because it is such a small program. Santa Barbara, much like Irvine, although they don't admit by major like Irvine does, still it's worth it to say 50% of students applied to 6 of 100 plus majors: bio, CS, psych, econ, mech, political science. So Santa Barbara, a little bit of a break. Santa Cruz, kind of a break too. Santa Cruz, computer science is the only major on campus that's competitive, but it's extremely so. Still, with all that, at least according to their numbers, they're looking at a 50% admit rate to CS overall. So I'm not entirely sure where they're getting the crazy selectivity from, but still, in the event that you choose computer science as a primary choice, we do want to have an alternate in there in order to have that as the safety net. Santa Cruz does, it's competitive, but it's still accessible marginally. As I mentioned before, we had a student from Mission San Jose last year that was waitlisted through like Riverside, though, for CS and CE, and admitted to Illinois CE. Illinois CE doesn't admit like Illinois CS, but geez, getting waitlisted through Riverside and getting into Illinois is still, interesting, noteworthy. So Santa Cruz, nothing impacted with the exception of CS. We needed an alternate for CS. Always put an alternate for everything, but especially in this case, computer science. Riverside, becoming more popular as time goes on. Riverside admits to major, but there are really only a couple of places that are competitive: engineering and business. Business, you don't even apply directly into business. You apply under like the School of Humanities for pre-business. Engineering, you apply directly into. Both of those are real rough. You again want to have an alternate major on there. CS stats, 35%. Not bad, but still Riverside, 35%. You'd think it'd be a little bit higher. But there you go. Finally, the last one, bringing up the rear, UC Merced. Choice of major plays a role everywhere. For most of our students, it's not going to matter. CS still very accessible. Just watch out for the Bears. So with you can see the kind of the flow here that we got. This is kind of the big takeaway. Cal admits by major for the most part. The alternate major is never considered, but it's admitting by major for CS really, and for business is what I'm talking about. For everybody else, for LNS, doesn't admit by major. For UCLA, computer science, as you see, is only in engineering. Every major is impacted in engineering. Alternate majors are not considered. UCLA used to consider alternate majors when both were under engineering. So we'll still encourage students to put an alternate major under engineering for UCLA, but it's not going to make a difference. San Diego, CS again, only in engineering, where every major is impacted. Where every major is impacted, just generally at San Diego that you'd want to go to. You can be admitted to UCSD without being admitted to CS or whatever your major is. UCI, admits by major. The alternate major is not considered, contrary to what the reference guide says. The reference guide, even though it should be updated, is a little bit out of date, as we saw with Davis having computer science under letters and sciences there, which it no longer has. Irvine, alternate major not considered, no matter what they say in the reference guide. Davis, admit by college, but computer science under engineering, alternate major not considered. UC Santa Barbara, computer science itself is only in engineering, where every major is impacted, can't transfer into engineering. Santa Cruz, computer science in particular. Oh, why do I have this? Most competitive major at Santa Cruz, however, can be admitted to UC Santa Cruz without being admitted to CS. So that's incorrect. Pardon the typo. Riverside and Merced admit by major. The alternate major is considered. So let me see this. Let me see if we've got anything. Okay, so we got that. Got it. Good. Done. Do we have anything else in there? How do I let that go? Dismiss. Sorry. Okay, but let me know any other questions, please, as this goes on. And as I've said, obviously, if you don't want to ask me questions, you can email, or you can look at the recording as much as you like. So that's UC in general, and that's specifically related to a lot of the computer science majors as well as the alternate majors. Now, to give a couple of relevant non-computer science oriented majors, just to give you your options for business students, because that tends to be popular as well, and it's not as intuitive at UC what business stuff is available. As I mentioned, there's really only 3 UCs that have standard business majors: Cal, Irvine, and Riverside. Cal has Haas, Irvine has Mirage, Riverside has its own college of business. I forgot exactly the name of it. But all solid enough. I mean, there aren't, not everybody has a Bachelor of Business Administration program out there. Everything is UC is generally pretty good. So the business programs are selective. Haas, as you see now, you can apply directly in. That's different, and it's going to be insanely competitive as they think. But UC never really. But that's the thing. UC, they always predict kind of wrong, but it's never easier than they say it's going to be. Davis doesn't have a straight up business major. My niece is there right now, though, and she's studying managerial econ, and she got a really cool internship from, oh gosh, IMG. It's one of the consulting. It was a big time consulting firm. So they do a lot, especially with you get involved in the appropriate clubs, which at UC tend to be selective. But you get involved in the appropriate clubs, finance type stuff. They do a good job of kind of showing you the ropes as far as getting internships. So Davis, you've got econ, managerial econ, analytics, and org studies. Irvine, standard Bachelor of Business Administration. UCLA, not a standard business major. Shirley started off in business econ and she didn't like it. And she's got all kinds of bad things to say about that, but that was like 15 years ago. So things could have changed. And UCLA is ranked, obviously among top schools as far as placement into investment banks and so forth. So the absence of a Bachelor of Business Administration program, not quite significant there. And the other piece of good news is all of these majors are equally accessible. As we spoke about in the case of UCLA, under letters and sciences, they do not admit by major. So business econ, financial actuarial math, pre-data theory, data science and statistics, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, all equally accessible. You start moving into engineering, that's when things start getting sketchy. The other 5. I got these alphabetized. Sorry. Merced, econ and management, as well as business economics. Study the economics of bears in Merced. Riverside, you got the School of Business Administration, so that's your idea. And you've got a Bachelor of Business Administration. So you can study the thriving economy of Riverside County and the Inland Empire. Moving right along, San Diego has econ, math econ, international studies and econ. As I said, their standard business major, they did what's called sunsetting it a couple of years ago. So that was it was an operations research type thing, but there's enough that's come back in there where you can still do relevant business related stuff at San Diego. Santa Barbara, you got a lot of the mathy stuff, actuarial science, econ and accounting, financial math and stats. In Santa Cruz, you've got some business things that tend to be related to international type stuff. Global econ, I think they've got an international econ as well. So you see 3 campuses that have business: Berkeley, Irvine, Riverside. Everybody else will have something business related. More often than not, it is not impacted. It typically is under letters and sciences with some type of econ relation. Now we get to the real fun. You want to do nursing, go somewhere else. Nursing, UCLA. Freshmen admit usually at around 1%, but it's all skewed by the fact that they make you submit a supplemental application. And I found this very interesting. What was it? A half of those that declare nursing on the UC app file the required supplements. The other half just they go into the application, say they want to do nursing, and then just don't follow through with it. So, maybe gives a nice idea about some of the competition out there at UC. Not everybody is a hard charger that goes to, Mission and Monte Vista and Pali and where else? And Lindbergh. Irvine, these numbers are accurate. Last year, I just looked at it last night. Last year's admit rate
was 1.3 for freshmen, or 2 years ago, 1.3 for freshmen, and a whopping 1.6 for transfers. So if you wanted to do nursing and you're like, man, I didn't get it as a freshman, I want to go to community college and transfer, just don't do that. Go do something else, because the odds are bumped up by 0.3%. Alternate major may, but it's not likely to be considered for admission. As we saw with UCLA, it's never considered, especially under LNS or under any school aside from engineering in the past. And even this year, it's probably not going to be considered for engineering. So nursing, rough. Not a lot of good news in this presentation for UC. I'm so sorry. That's the thing. People get in, they do, but it's just the statistics. But you also have to keep this in mind, please. With as I mentioned this, and I always mention it as a goof. But it is true. It's like as soon as the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, the UC app slows down, because I swear, like, everybody from like Turlock and Tracy, and like Imperial Valley, then they finally realize they want to apply to college, and they all get on. Not everybody is as well prepared as the students from up here, the students that we work with. That all said, as we saw last year, UCSD or UC admissions, especially for engineering, as they say in Spain, horrible. So I don't know if you can count on the otherwise weak applicants to UC to balance things out, but at least be aware that the 1 point something percentage admit rate, it does include a lot of students that are applying that might not be as well prepared, have the honors AP stuff, have the GPAs, have the good activities that we do. So now a couple of UC fast facts that I just wanted to mention. These are things that popped up from these are like kind of nuances that have changed, but you might find them somewhat interesting. The question earlier from Lee was about the College of Computing, Data Science, and Society. I think these are all impacted. These are all high demand majors. Maybe stats isn't, but CS and data science definitely are. This is just something where they broke them off from LNS, and there's a new administrative arm that does computing, data science, and society. I don't believe that they're going to manage admissions. It's still going to be something that's managed by the General Office of Undergrad Admissions. It might be something in the future where there's a different set of criteria for College of Computing, Data Science, and Society. But as of right now, that's just something where on the application and on paper, it seems that it's been identified as this additional unit. But for all practical purposes right now, it's not making any difference for admission. So that's the last one. I don't know why I started with that. So going from the top, which most reasonable people would do, some of the fast facts. This was something that was interesting from the UC Counselor Conference. There was a question in the always in like the chat column that people put their questions in. Those are always the best ones because everybody's kind of unfiltered there with the responses. But I mean, to the best of my knowledge, 4 years ago, there was legislation that forced UC to cap each individual Office of Admissions out-of-state and international population at 17 to 18%. It did come out last year that there were several schools that were putting up that were filing lawsuits in order to stop that, for obvious reasons, big money. But I find it mind-blowing that in spite of legislation, there's like 3 of the 9 campuses that are still that are the only 3 of the 9 campuses are planning on reducing their out-of-state number to this number. I mean, it was something that was said in passing, so perhaps I need to do a little bit of research on it before sounding the alarm. But it's we don't have a large number of students, but it has been the case that our kids from overseas, they haven't done awful with UC. Kids from kids that aren't California residents, kids that are from like Hong Kong and aren't even US citizens are having some luck. So maybe not totally surprising that the cap at 18% is only being established at a couple of campuses and slowly moving that. That's one thing. Completely unrelated. Next thing. We have a student right now who's in his 4th year at UC, or just finished his 4th year at UC Riverside. He's applying to med school for next year. And Riverside is good at that. Everybody talks badly about Riverside, myself included, because I lived in the county for a little bit when I was with UC. And it's nasty, but the school itself is good. And it's getting better, especially for life science type stuff. They've got their own medical center. I'm almost positive that I got this right, that it's 24 out of 84 seats for med school are saved for UCR grads. I mean, maybe like at this point in your life, you think, I don't want to go to UC Riverside Med School. But really, man, you get into any medical school outside of like the Bahamas, you're doing pretty well when it winds up when push comes to shove. So don't you can't look down on anything that's run by UC. Next bullet point, this comes up every year, multiple times, so I figured I'd get out in front of it. UC does not know what other C's the UCs the student has applied to. For all of you who go to schools where the counselor says don't apply to all the UCs, I mean, they're picking something up on like, I don't know, from like Reddit admissions mom that is like making a little comment, but there is not, UC doesn't know the other schools that you're applying to. Always the rumor has come out that you don't want to apply to too many, or if you get into Berkeley, you're not going to get into UCLA. But that's a canard. That is not true. So a couple of all kind of unrelated UC fast facts just to be aware of. Don't hate on Riverside. Don't get too excited about San Diego, LA, and Cal as far as in-state stuff. Don't feel obligated to apply to only a couple of UCs. I don't think that we've got any kids. We don't have any more kids from ISB. Where a lot of the overseas IB schools cap you at 10 colleges. Which is really helpful because basically like International School of Beijing, they don't allow kids to apply to any more than 10 colleges, and the counselors and the council reports say, hey, our kids aren't applying to any more than 10. You will know if that they want to go there by the virtue of the fact that they've applied to you. They used to cap that number with UC as well, but they shouldn't. So if you're at a school, which I don't think anybody is, that caps the number of schools that you applied to, still apply to all 9 UC or all whatever you want to. It's usually top 6, top 7, or all 9. Okay, you see. All right, something else. This is the thing I wanted to say. Something totally off topic. I have to say this now because I've been meaning to. I was going to include this in my little 10-minute video about this that wound up turning into this whole presentation. University of Maryland computer science is no longer a safety. It was a safety last year. Up until and through last year, and students that are there will be grandfathered in. You can apply to University of Maryland, get in, not that hard, take 4 computer science prereq classes with a grade of C- or better, and be admitted to a top 20 computer science program, guaranteed. No longer. Now, the best odds of getting in is direct entry, and internal transfer and major change is highly unlikely. Computer science is a limited enrollment program that is extremely competitive. Students who are not directly admitted as first-year applicants are highly unlikely, all caps from Common App, to be admitted after they enroll, as the review process for current students offers very limited space. So I went online and I messed around with this, and I Googled the verbiage and saw what I could find, and I wound up finding a chat room where it seemed like somebody that was internal to Maryland's CS admissions, and they wouldn't disclose who they are, was posting this. The gateways to transfer in, the C- thing, no longer. It's not going to be not anything that's relevant anymore. You gotta not gonna be very easy, if nothing else. You got to apply in. If you're not accepted for direct entry, then the odds of transferring in are slim to none. We don't know exactly what the numbers are going to wind up being. We just know that the transfer gateway is going to be limited, and it's probably going to be decrease the number of students that are admitted, and the requirements will be heightened. And getting in for direct entry is probably going to be super hard. With anything like this, though, you don't know how it's going to work out until it goes through a cycle. And there's a bunch of stuff that's like that this year. All the new UC things, as you see. There's the crazy University of Michigan. What is it? The advanced selection thing to CS that was just implemented last year. We don't know exactly how that's going to work out for internal transfer. So the holy trinity of 3 top 30 accessible CS programs of Virginia Tech, Wisconsin, and Maryland has been reduced by 1. So now we're from a triumvirate to a diumvirate. I don't know. But in any case, University of Maryland computer science, you still want to apply. Let's go for it. The hardest question on the application is the 160 character. What did you like best about last Thursday? spend 15 minutes and complete the application, but just don't expect much out of it as far as safety is concerned. Safety school, not like campus safety. All right, so let's do this. Let's let the learning begin. Let me see what else we got for our oh, let me see. Boy, everybody's got things everywhere. Q&A. All right. Excellent questions out there. 2 questions. Is it possible to get a minor in computer science or data science at all? Yes, I would say so. The only issue with that does seem to be that minors in computer science are not as prized, embraced by employers as the core CS program. So it still is possible. I would say probably CS less than data science. But getting the minor, getting the classes is also kind of hard. So that's the thing, is that with it would be permitted, but the people at the that have priority, the majority of CS classes, presuming that CS is in engineering, are going to be the engineering students. That's one of the reasons that once you're in engineering, you can transfer, and it's not as hard as kind of trying to come in outside of engineering. Like with UCLA, if you get into materials, moving into CS or CSE isn't impossible. And one of the reasons is, as an engineering kid, you got priority to the CS classes, the engineering classes that are in there. So if it's an engineering, if CS or data science are under engineering, then it's not going to be as easy because you're not going to have the priority for the classes. But if they're outside, like for instance, at Santa Barbara, or hell, I mean, most of the other places that are where you're going to get it, it would probably be okay for data science. For CS, it'd be a little bit more touch and go because of the priority with the classes. Excellent question. Next question. Will UC still consider race this year for admission decision? Should we not disclose race in questions and essays to adversely affect admissions decision? The big operative word here is still. UC, since Prop 209 in 1996, has not considered ethnicity or gender in admissions. So nothing will have changed as far as ethnicity is concerned with UC. UC, back in 96, changed things so dramatically, a massive shift in admissions and a massive shift in demographics. And they are not able any longer to consider, as I said, ethnicity or gender with anything. That all said, UC still does look for, they still try and do a little bit of an end run in ways, finding corollaries for underrepresented groups. As I talk all the time about my experience with UC, which was like 20 years ago, so it's not relevant. This still probably is, with free and reduced lunch, single parent home, foster youth, first gen college, what else? Underperforming school, low academic performance index, low income zip code. All of these things are included in the UC review in order to advance equity. So consequently, you'll see a lot. You'll potentially see students that are admitted from like Oakland Tech, or Mission High School in San Francisco, that'll have a large African American or Latino population, where they're admitted, but the criteria that are used for admission are not related to ethnicity or gender. Just legally you can, and you're not gonna have any. It's not like there's like some kind of black shrouded cabal at UC that's managing this. I mean, people obey the law. If you try and find ways around it, or you try and find ways of giving kids advantages, but you don't consider ethnicity on the front end. Nobody is really obviously going to be able to. A gender, different story, but yeah, good question. All right. Which UC should be targeted for students that want to go into pre-med? That's an excellent question. Not Cal, not Berkeley. That's the one that's the backbreaker. I've been saying this for I've been saying everything for like the last decade. But every year, every couple of years, I'll have students come to me from that went to Cal, come back, and they're like, yeah, I want to go to medical school now. And these are kids with like 4.5 uncapped GPAs, tons of stuff. I was like, yeah, what's your GPA? Well, my science GPA is a 3.1. And I'm like, okay, look into the Bahamas. So with something like Berkeley, where OChem is just crushing people and they're weeding students out, No, it's no good like that. LA is a lot more chill and generally nice, but you still have a lot of competition there. We've had several students over the past several years that have been admitted to Cal or UCLA that have chosen Irvine or Santa Barbara over those. I think Irvine is an excellent place for it. Irvine has a real health science orientation. It's not insane. I mean, it's everything is competitive with UC. It's just like, is it healthy competition or is it toxic? Um, so yeah. Cal is like 13th grade of Mission San Jose. So it's not like the least toxic thing in the entire world. And the competition's at a high level. And like I said, the classes are backbreaking. Um, Davis is good. I mean, it's got a lot of good resource. It's got a lot of good resources. It's got a lot of good research opportunities. It's obviously quite well known for plant biology. Largely responsible for a lot of the viticulture and oenology, the study of wine in California. So Davis, Santa Barbara, Irvine, and like I said, with the exception of like the awful aspects of the Inland Empire, Riverside is cool. I don't. The campus is okay. The surrounding area is a dump, but the school is good. So yeah, there I think that all of the I mean it's $70 and one check mark to apply to all of them. So you know they got to take someone. So you know to the extent that the application fee isn't jamming you up, um, roll the dice to see what happens. It's one application. You might as well get as much mileage out of it as you can. Um, yeah, Riverside, Irvine. I haven't heard much about Santa Cruz for pre-med. Haven't heard anything about Merced. But yeah, that's not totally unusual. Um, okay. Do we have to select the same major for all UC campuses? Asking because we can submit one essay about major choice in the UC application. Excellent question. Yeah, more or less, you've got to. That's exactly right. Like I said before, the major with UC, it's not like with Stanford, where it's kind of like, tell us what you're interested in. It's like, oh, I'm interested in like gender studies and astrophysics, and that doesn't have any impact on the application. For UC, the major is entwined with the activities, with the PIQs, the essays, with everything there. So what do? You got to at least have some kind of relation in there. You can't be going like UC essays 4 and 6, all about computer science, activities, computer science, computer science, computer science, computer science, computer science. Other UC essays about something else like Boy Scouts and like FCSN. And then for one of the applications, like put in that you want to apply to like literature. You should make it marginally related, even if it's something like applied math or like I have as the backup at UC San Diego and a lot of places, undeclared physical sciences. At least make it somewhat relevant. And in most cases, under letters and sciences, as you've noticed, admission isn't by major. So you're not getting any real advantage by like sticking in gender studies or like African American studies as a major when it relates to nothing else. Stick in like undeclared, will stick in like undeclared math, and it'll all relate and be close enough. But yeah, that's an excellent question. That's the problem with UC. You know, you had 9 campuses that differ. But I mean, that's the good news also is that you know what you're going to get with UC. You know what's going to be competitive. You know, it's always going to be CS. It's always going to be left brain stuff. Letters and sciences very rarely admits by major. So you know, maybe go with that one kind of across the board. So at least there's no mystery in there and what's going to be harder. Excellent question. Under which majors does journalism fall and which UC has the best course for it? I mean, not a ton of them. With the you know, we're gonna have like comp studies at some. With let me see this. You know, let me give you a better answer to that. Now that we're here, I'm not gonna here, hold on. Let's go into this guy. Where are you? I should have pulled this up earlier. You see all my files and stuff. Okay, come on. All right. Here, is this it? Is this it? Is this it? Is this it? Here it is. Quick reference guide. Oh no, I'm not sure. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. Okay, let me do that. Pardon me. What a jerk. Okay. So let me go back to this. I'm going to share my screen. Going to get this above like, you know, 39%. Let's go on page 73. At least start there. Okay, and let's see what we got. Okay, there's your answer. We got one. We got literary journalism at Irvine. Good gosh. But what are we going to have? I spelled journalism right. Let me see. Yeah, it'd be something could be like communication studies. Yeah, here we go. Now we're cooking with gravy. Okay. So here we go. Well, we'll have film and television in at LA. So that theater, film, and television maybe gets a little bit close. But otherwise, we're looking at Berkeley, some kind of but mostly engineering. Here we go. LNS at Davis. Another double E communications. LA, we got comm. What's this? San Diego, we got comm. Sociology, culture, and communication. Santa Barbara, we got communication. Santa Cruz, we got double E. So yeah, not a whole lot of options for journalism. Yeah, that's one very interesting thing about UC. Not to belabor this at all, because everybody has things to go, and if you're anything like me, you have just a whole day of awful youth soccer that you have to go to. But with UC, the one kind of rule of thumb is if it's practical, they usually don't do. If it's like, yeah, if it's a practical degree program outside of engineering, they typically won't do it. As I've mentioned to several of you, the California Education Master Plan for higher education is set up in such a way that UC is at the top, Cal States are in the middle, community colleges are at the bottom. As you see, only 3 of the 9 UCs offer business. Like all the Cal States offer business. And look at like the top 20 schools in the country. How many of those offer business? 2 Ivies, Penn, Cornell. Who else? Wash U, Notre Dame, Hopkins, garbage business program. Not a lot of top 20 schools will offer business, like hands-on practical stuff. Not a lot of top 20 schools offer nursing, hands-on practical stuff. Not a lot of schools offer like education, hands-on practical stuff. Same thing with journalism, hands-on practical workman-like type things. Not something that a lot of top colleges do, and apparently not something that UC does. Very, very good question. So communication in multiple places. In other places, depending on what you want to put in for the it'll still be easier than anything else. I mean, you put in English, you put in the communication degree. It's all going to wind up being far easier than it's all going to be in letters and sciences. All right. Parents got their degrees from out of USA. Can the kid be claimed as first generation college? No, you cannot. So sorry. Anything beyond a full degree, any bachelor's degree, associates, you're good. You go to associate, I mean, get an associates from like, Kenyatta, like my mom's got still first gen college, but you wind up getting bachelor's degree. Yeah, kid isn't first gen college, even though it's over. I think parents going like Tsinghua, making like $750,000 a year. First gen college. My kid's been disadvantaged. I understand though. I understand. I'm not giving you a hard time. Okay, are UC's good options for business in terms of post-college careers, even though some of them don't have dedicated business schools? That's a great question. I'd say probably so. Yeah, like I mentioned, my nieces, I mean, sample size of one that I'm related to. But Davis, great access to opportunities. UCLA, good tradition of pumping kids into investment banking. Haas, fabulous, one of the top business schools in the country. And then you've got Irvine and Riverside that actually have Bachelor of Business Administration programs to speak of. Santa Cruz, you're going to have a real CS kind of vibe, and you're going to be close to the Silicon Valley, so there'll be some entrepreneurial angle there. Merced, maybe not. Santa Barbara, it's got a lot of like the quanti business stuff, like the finance, so that could wind up working out, and the accounting and the actuarial science. So, the other thing is too, like I said, for the Ivies, it's obviously different type of school, but for the Ivies, there's only 2 schools that offer undergrad Bachelor of Business Administration, Cornell and Penn. But you mean to tell me that Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Dartmouth, Columbia, what's the other one I'm missing? Columbia, somebody else. They don't offer, they're top 25 in terms of putting students into high level investment banking as well. So yeah, you're good with UC, I would say, in business, depending on the school location, Bear business in Merced, but like I don't know about other than that. But yeah, good question. Okay.
The UC application asks for 20 activities. To fill those up for me and most likely others would require putting some activities that aren't really meaningful at all. Something like volunteering somewhere for a day. Is it recommended or is it better to fill out all 20? That's a great question. Again, good job. Saturday morning, y'all are on point. Put it in. Don't leave money on the table with UC. Again, going back to my experience during like the George W. Bush administration, so not relevant, but just kind of try and get the theme here. When I was with UC San Diego, we were on a point system, and we'd have a certain threshold of points for students to get in. My last year, the threshold for points was 7,356 points. So the points are, there is this line of getting in where you have to accrue the points. For volunteering, for instance, we would have a system where 0 through 99 hours of volunteering and the two highest years of participation got you 0 points. 100 through 199 hours got you 150 points. 200 plus got you the full complement of 300 points toward your application. So, as you can figure, there probably are some students that neglected to put in, 1 hour of volunteering, wound up getting 99 total hours, didn't get any points on their application, and missed the cut by 150. So yeah, with something like this, UC isn't going to wind up being like, oh my God, for activities 15, 16, and 17, the kid put in walking around Relay for Life for like a day. That's terrible. No, nobody's going to do that. Are they going to use the point system anymore? No, not like I had it. But you still get the idea. Don't leave money on the table with UC no matter what. Get it in there unless it's squeezing out other content. But very, very good question. Boy, all good questions. Like I said, y'all were really, really good. It's 10:36 right now. I don't think that there's any other questions that I'm not seeing here, even though I'm not the best with oh, let me see. It's under more. Do we have Q&A under more? No, it's the same thing. Okay, sorry. All right. So usually Shirley sets this up, and I'm not good at this. Okay. Another question. Is there any point considering BME over bio for pre-med majors? Boy, that's a good question. Yeah, you come out with a practical skill. Come out with an engineering degree. Getting in hard for the schools that'll wind up having it. Just to double check this. So yeah, the question was, is there any point in choosing biomedical engineering? Let me see. We got that at Davis. We got it at Irvine. We got it at Merced. Huh. Yeah, but that's the thing. You don't have many options either. That's what I was wondering. In contradistinction to bioengineering, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so I mean, with they tend to overlap for bio versus biomedical engineer, or for bioengineering and biomedical engineering. They do tend to overlap as far as the field is concerned in a lot of schools. UC doesn't have many biomedical engineering options. They do have a lot of bioengineering options. And generally speaking, biomedical engineering is typically medical devices, artificial muscle. Bioengineering is genetic manipulation. When you get to schools in the Midwest, it's a lot of crop science type stuff. UC has a lot of bio-E. They don't have a lot of BME. In both cases, is it better to have an engineering degree than an undergrad degree in bio? Yeah. I mean, if you don't get in a medical school with your undergrad degree in bio, what are you going to do with the degree? You can wrap fish in it like you do with a newspaper. But other than that, I mean, obviously you work in labs and things like that. I'm being facetious. But engineering degrees are typically practical degrees where you come out, you have practical experience and you're going in as a professional in that field. So there is an advantage. Yeah, they're going to be under engineering majors. So that's going to be harder to get into, and you will have a lot of quant classes that are going to be harder to maintain a science GPA or a total overall GPA. And when applying to medical school, your science and overall GPA are the two most significant criteria. So there is a point of doing it, that you can come out with probably more employability with just a bachelor's degree. But as far as getting in and getting out with the right GPA, if you want to go into medical school, ultimately, it might be a little bit tough. That's a great question.
Next question. Volunteering at different places. Will they count as one extracurricular activity or different ones? It depends on how many activities the kid has. If you've got 5, then there'll be different activities. We'll break them up. If you've got like 50, then we'll lump them in all under one. When we're doing the editing of that, we want to make sure that we get the most in, and we do want to combine things where we can. We don't want to combine real important stuff, though. That's like if you wind up doing, like, just for argument's sake, soccer's on my mind because I got stupid youth soccer to go to. If you're a club soccer champion and a varsity soccer champion, break them up. That would be something where it would be worthwhile to see both of those if we've got the space to do it. But we handle that. We're doing that over the next couple of weeks, breaking these things up, editing them, and laying them out. So you don't have to. Okay. How many humanities courses are part of the general education requirements for each UC? The easiest way for me to just check that out is let me just go back to what we got for, generally speaking, San Diego with, and let me go into, because, as much as everybody hates Revelle, Revelle does have a bunch of, it's got a bunch of what you call it, of the, 4 quarters of foreign language, 5, 3, 8, 15. So you're looking at about, what are we looking at? We're looking at probably 6 to 7, depending. That is probably about right. When you look at an overall degree program at most schools, it's broken up into 3 parts: major, general education, electives. And in a lot of cases, those are balanced. So if you figure a degree is 128, 130 credit hours, you're looking at about 43 classes, 43 3-unit classes. Let's say for STEM majors, like, just over a third of those will be major classes. Just under a third of those will be GE classes. So you're looking at 14 GE classes. Yeah, split between STEM classes and humanities classes, probably about 7. Sounds about right. Humanities, might be a little bit, maybe fewer than that, because I'm talking about like humanities, social science, language other than English. Yeah, good question. Very good question. Do you have to have calculus to be considered competitive to get into an engineering program? I would strongly recommend having a calculus class on the transcript at some point, even as a planned class, even second semester, senior year, doing it as a spring quarter class at De Anza or Foothill or Lake Tahoe Community College. I would have it in there as a planned class. If you can have it as a grade on the transcript, so much the better. You've established yourself. They know what they're getting with that. But if nothing else, engineering, you want calc. No matter how you cut it, quant skills are always going to be the most important skills for engineering folks. And then with UC, especially so. Very good question. Okay, next one. How should I apply to Berkeley as a business major? How do you choose between GMP, letters inside, or directly to Haas? It depends on your interest. With GMP, it's a combined program. With MET, it's a combined program. With the direct to Haas program, it's not a combined program. It's a straight up Bachelor of Business Administration. With letters and sciences, where you'd ultimately transfer in, that's a different approach as well. So I think the question is going to be twofold. Would you rather do straight up business or the combined programs in business? And if it's straight up business, what do you want? Do you want to go into Haas no matter what? Or would you be okay going to Cal and maybe not doing Haas? If it's Haas or bust, and you apply directly into Haas. If it's like, I want to go to Berkeley and go to football games and maybe major in econ, then do something that's a non-impacted, non-high demand major for LNS that's related to business in order to fit the essays and get in that way. Yeah, should I put National Merit Commended on the award section? Yeah, put everything in there. Don't edit yourself. I mean, no matter what, this was our policy with the activities document. Put everything in there that you've done since summer after 8th and let us decide what's important. And I go through and me, Lauren, Shirley, Gabby go in and decide all of these, and I spot check all of them to make sure that these are all accurate and that they're all supposed to wind up going in. So you dump in, you're supposed to dump in what you do, and then we make the decision on what's going to wind up going in there. Should National Merit Commended go in there? It depends on what the other options are. If you got nothing in there and you still have space in the 20, then we stick it in there. If it's competing with that or a patent, then the patent goes in. And it's all about what the other options are. But there'd be nothing like bad about it. It's not like the reader's going to sit back and like their tweed code goes, why do they think this is important? And then throw it in a fireplace.
What kind of alternate majors can be chosen for pre-med students? Most of them. You know, as you'll see, there aren't as popular as bio might be, and like MCDD and public health might be at a lot of the campuses. They're not always that way. You know, a lot of the life science majors are not impacted. And if it's a school like UC San Diego where all of them are, then you put in like undeclared life science or undeclared physical sciences. But yeah, the ones that are the real concerning ones are the ultra left brain ones, are computer science and data science. With bio, it's hit or miss. As you saw with Davis, bio, the College of Biological Sciences is the least competitive on campus. San Diego will have a problem. San Diego and Irvine, you know, as Irvine, #1 application, biological sciences. But still, it's not a crusher in terms of getting in. It's still 23% admit rate. So alternate majors, I would say, you know, no shortage of alternate majors, and even primary majors, not the big deal, not the biggest deal. We'll wind up making sure that you don't wind up like, pardon the metaphor, going into a gunfight armed only with a knife. But on your end, I mean, if you want to go sure and check them out, make sure and check them out, and that's all good. One good thing about UC is if the major is impacted or capped or harder to get into, they're not going to keep it a secret. It'll be like, it'll pop up. It'll be like, you're applying to a capped major. Make sure you put something else in that's not capped. And the only way you know that it's not capped is you click on it. And if the thing doesn't pop up that says that it's capped, you're good. Yeah. Excellent questions. Excellent job. Wonderful reception. Again, so on point Saturday morning. Thank you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. I'm going to finish this up now, unless there's anything else. I'll post this on our little on the YouTube site that we've got, and I'll give you the link. Yeah, and you you watch it at your leisure. Watch it while you're spending some good time with family. Thank you so much. Thank you for saying thank you. Don't even worry about it. You're all good. If not for this, I'd be doing like, you know, we're looking at essays or something. So I'm real happy to do this, especially since it saves time. So yeah, I'll send this out over the next couple of days. Let me know any questions in the meantime. I'm really happy that people could do it. I'm really happy that people could come. In retrospect, I'm really glad that I did this, because there's so much to go over and everybody has questions and everybody's freaking out. And there's some cases where you do need to freak out, but in most cases you don't. Well, you don't need to freak. You just need to know the lay of the land, which is, you know, kind of painful for UC. But in any case, thank you so much. When will the slides be sent out? I'll send the whole presentation out. That'll make it a little bit that'll make it a little bit easier, just kind of see everything and to get the context of stuff, because you don't want the slides without my talking over it, do you? That's not what you're in this for. All right, thank you so much again. I'll send out the video soon. Have a good one, y'all. Enjoy your Saturday. Speak soon.